So yesterday, I reported on Shapeshawn Nick's own comments regarding the news that the possibility of an exclusivity deal was actually signed when it came down to the conversation of Black Myth Wukong. Now, remember when I told you guys in that video, I said one of the best things you want to do is you want to wait about 72 hours because that's when the news cycle usually digests and more information will come out. In fact, when I made that preliminary video, I said I just can't believe that this is true simply because, this is insane for you to come out with an anonymous source and make a claim like that. Even if an anonymous source told you, something of that nature, it's going to be hard for people to believe it. And seeing how there is an all-time low in media trust, it's also much harder. So Shapeshawn Nick seems to have actually put things in a better perspective and actually confirmed, yes, that there was money that exchanged hands in a sense, but it was not for an exclusivity deal. So PlayStation went ahead and helped with this particular, thing to get their port done. Now, Paul Tassi basically came out and, people were accusing him of having made that stuff up. And I think this is one of the things that made me actually yell in my other video, Paul, this is a huge thing that you're, claiming. You're sure you have to be very accurate. And he came out really super, certain about it, not giving any room for possible mistakes or possible errors. So I think that is his fault because journalistic standards are actually very, very high. So he came out and said, it's illuminating how many people hate or distrust him. I don't hate anybody, please. Maybe somebody hates you, but that is not me. I don't even know you, so that would be really weird. However, I have to say that, I guess this is a lesson for all of us to learn in terms of when we hear news that we basically wait it out a little bit. Now, here's the thing. If, say, PlayStation had done this with the goal of trying to keep the game off of Xbox, it's not going to be the first time that they've done anything. However, we just can't know that, right? We just can't say, oh, we know PlayStation's motives because we read their minds. Even though we may suspect it, and it's okay to suspect it because I do suspect it, but I can't go ahead and confirm it that way and say, oh yeah, this is definitely what PlayStation did. So in this scenario and in this case, what I usually would say is in a situation like this, what you want to do is you want to basically go with the official statements that you have because that's the very best thing that you can interpret from. How you choose to interpret it is your choice. So I'm going to go with this from Game Science. Game Science said, we are currently optimizing the Xbox Series X/S version to meet our quality standards. So it won't release simultaneously with the other platforms. We apologize for the delay and aim to minimize the wait for Xbox users. We'll announce the release date as soon as it meets our quality standards. So they're saying it's on us. We have not reached the point where we want the game to be, released and launched for this platform, but we're going to go ahead and, release on other platforms, of which they believe that their release on other platforms is good enough for them. Well, I guess those who are playing the game right now, I guess we can speak on that later because I can tell you the performance is not consistent. I have a build that's, really beefy to play the game. The game, it has sound stutters. Y'all were telling me for the 4090 build to reduce resolution. I have sound stutters. I have all kinds of weird stuff going on. I have to uninstall the game. But on my $650 console killer build, it's an AMD build. It has an AMD GPU. It runs like a dream. I haven't had a single issue. It's weird. And, that's fine. It's nice to have backup devices with AMD and NVIDIA and the way some games will interact with one another. Let's look at Microsoft's statement. Microsoft said, we're excited for the launch of Black Myth Wukong on Xbox Series X and S, and we're working with Game Science to bring the game to our platforms. We can't comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders, but we remain focused on making Xbox the best platform for gamers, and great games are the center of that. So that is what it is. Now, here's the thing. Because from these two statements, we cannot draw conclusions that actually say whether or not this game was money-hatted because of paying for a port, because I'm not going to sit here and try to make it seem like, oh, PlayStation paid for the port, so their intent was to basically get the game on their platform first, even though I suspect it is. The simple reason I'm not going to conclude that is also because Xbox does also have, scenarios and situations where it helps developers to pay for their ports. If you look at the ID at Xbox program and developer programs from the indie side or from the small studio side, there are some specific programs that game developers can qualify for that can actually help them to be able to cover costs for their ports. And it's not just Xbox, scenarios in a sense. They are in a position where if you qualify, you can actually get your port paid for. So again, I'm not saying that Xbox is doing this just for exclusivity. It could be that Sony was doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. And I say it, but again, it's nice to maintain, a sense of objectivity until you get more information. So here's why I'm actually putting it this way. The problem now here is we're left with the claim that it's the fault of the Series S. And this claim is coming from a lot of the PlayStation folk. Now, PlayStation folk, as I've actually looked at this and I've tried my best to be fair to PlayStation, even though I hate their anti-consumer practices, I don't like money hatting. I know exclusives are a thing, but I wish they'd all die. I think you should be fair to Xbox in this scenario, simply because the developers at Game Science have not officially told you anything about the Series S. The news that we have on the Series S is also just a rumor of somebody who said they spoke to somebody regarding the Series S. Now, yes, I do know the pertaining evidence around that, just like we have pertaining evidence about PlayStation pretty much being chewed out by US lawmakers of their conduct in Japan, basically blocking games from Xbox. But this scenario with Black Myth Wukong, because we don't have the details, we can infer, we can suspect, but we can't confirm in this scenario. And so you, on the PlayStation side, you can suspect the Series S, you can infer the Series S, but just because you can't confirm it, you got to leave it on Game Science's shoulder as a matter of being fair and being objective in the way we reason through these things. Now, I know in this scenario, someone's going to hit me with that Baldur's Gate 3, argument. And let me be honest. A lot of y'all on the PlayStation side that talk about Baldur's Gate 3, you did not listen to this gentleman actually talk about the whole Xbox Series S scenario and the situation. You didn't. You took sound bites from your favorite people that talk about video games on the internet, and you let that basically guide your conversation. I made a whole 25-minute video actually pointing out this, the statements he made about the Series S from start to when he, was discussing it, all the way to the end till they asked him a different question. And there's nowhere where he said that the Series S was a problem. He just said that it was them, being in a position where they had to pretty much scale their game to get into the Series S and to actually make it work, because you're given your platform, you're given your game, you're giving, you're giving each hardware piece that you want to set, take your game to. And in many cases, you're the one that's going to have to be burdened by doing the work. Now, I do know that what's crazy, and I found this out yesterday, somebody was, getting after me, that there's no couch co-op on the Series S of the game. Just because I said, because Black Myth Wukong can play on the Steam Deck, to the best of the way it can play, it can more than likely play on the Series S because the Series S is more powerful hardware. That's how we usually look at hardware. And somebody was like, well, it doesn't have, co-op on the Series S because the Series S has a limitation for its RAM. Well, then the good thing about that is, a game like Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have any co-op. It's a single player game. And I know co-op can be a big problem on a video game. I remember when I was making videos on Gotham Knights talking about how the co-op in that game, the way they made it untethered, has just complicated things. And them cutting the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One version probably makes sense that they more than likely either didn't have time because developers are under publishers and Warner Brothers is all over the place, or they probably just didn't have the expertise to be able to go ahead and get that game running the way they had it. The only other game that I've actually seen do untethered co-op very well is the Division 1 and Division 2. And those games run on a server. They don't run locally like Gotham Knights and Baldur's Gate, who, even though it's a different system, it runs a lot of stuff locally. So Baldur's Gate 3 may have actually pushed the Series S to its maximum limit in a sense, but I'm not too certain that that's the case. I think they wanted to push the game out in 2023, but if you had given the game a little bit more time, I think the developers at Larian would have been able to do it and basically push their game fully into the Series S. The reason I actually can say that with a little bit more confidence with them is because they were able to push their game, Divinity 2 Original Sin, into the Nintendo Switch. And even the gentleman that was talking here, the boss of Larian, said that, it took them a while to get it done, but they got it done because it's just one of those things where you as a developer, you're just going to keep working on your game until you can do it. And so those that are talking about the memory leak stuff and pointing out the Series S as the problem and all, Game Science did not tell you that it was the Series S. You're just drawing presumptions from pertaining evidence, and you want to go ahead and conclude with it. It's not a fair way to look at things. Because at the end of the day, I can't speak for anybody else, this whole conversation with the exclusivity thing or whatnot, that's all subjective in my opinion. At the end of the day, when you think about it, the game is still going to come to Xbox. If you want to play the game right now and you want a PlayStation to play the game, by all means, it's your choice. It's your money. If you ask me what my recommendation is, go build a PC. You can build a PC that's going to be better than the PS5 Pro. You can build a PC that will still keep up with the PS6 you'll keep up with the next console generation, and still for the most part, if you have if you're a little bit savvy, you can stay on top of the console generation with a very small amount of money, close to what you're going to pay for a Series X or for a PS5. I've done the math in many videos. I've shown you guys the components and the parts. You won't have to pay for online play. Sure, you're probably going to miss your library, but eventually you're going to get over it. I don't even remember my PlayStation library, or do I? Well, on my Xbox, I think it was Gotham Knights I purchased, and I purchased Sekiro because it was on sale on Xbox and I wanted to play it. I made a mistake. A week later, it went on sale on Steam. I was beating myself up. It's okay. You'll forget your library because the benefits are just going to outweigh what console is offering you for the most part. But again, it's your preference. If you feel the console is a better place for you to play, that's, it is what it is. So thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience. This whole thing is very easy to jump up and down into all kinds of conversations, but at the end of the day, you can see that with these dynamics, things are kind of weird. Thanks for watching. Peace out.